Now let's go back and turn those back on, because in each of these areas I'm also going to put a little, make a text box. Again, don't just insert a cursor, click and drag a text box that fills up the space you want it to fill. So for right now I'm going to put it here. I am absolutely not going to use this for my body copy. Maybe we could pretend for a minute that we're going to use it for the header. So let's do that, and let's say contrast and, oh, that's ugly. That's not staying either. Oh, that was weird. Elaboration. Let's pick something supplemental here. Let's do clean. That's got a bit of a family to it. This has got a bit of a family to it. I actually like this a lot better. We're going to go with that. So the key being that you want to have a headline. So if it were me and I were just starting off here, I would find something that I liked, and then I would use my selection tool and my option key. Do you see how I get that little double arrow? And I would hold down, snap my shift key to keep them lined up, and I would just pull this to each spot. And so what are these actually, Serena? What's the first one?
That's positive. No, that one is
positive and negative?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Ooh, I don't know why it's doing that.
Yeah, it's positive and negative. The last one you have is contrast and elaboration. The other one should be definition.
Now, if you're using ampersands, that's this dude here. Be consistent. Right? What's the middle one?
Repeat and repetition.
Rhythm and repetition?
Yeah.
This I struggle with.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I have I have PTSD from when I was in high school. You had to take keyboarding, and I'm a horrible keyboarder. So when I'm demonstrating in front of people typing, it makes me like crazy, because she used to scream at me all the time, and I can just hear her like yelling at me. I can type fast if no one's watching me, and pretty accurately, but not looking at the keys though. No, I'm a looker. So anyway, so I've got these items, and you'll notice that because I set them up together, they all kind of go together. So we're going to just do a new line here, and we're going to say this is where you will put your definition. Please be sure to put it in your own voice. Please, oh, that's so annoying. Make sure to spell, check, and proof your work. Okay? Spell check is fantastic. I thank God every day that it exists in my life, because I am probably one of the worst spellers I know. But it's not perfect. So if I want a hierarchy between positive and negative and what else is here, I don't even need to change out a book. I could just say, all right, so let's just make all the definitions 11 point. All right? Okay. Now, every single definition will not be exactly the same, obviously. So let's do one here where I just kind of double it up a little so it's a lot longer. Okay, so you might end up with something like this, right? And I want you to make really strong decisions about how you're aligning these things. So as I look at this, I'm going to go ahead up here and I'm going to view my guides, and I'm going to unlock them, because I'm finding already for me that what's going to work the best, if it'll let me grab it. Did I not just unlock them? Yep. Oh, the layer's locked. Okay. I accidentally put them there and I feel like they look really good. I feel like the placement away from everything else works there. What I don't like, if I command colon this, is A, how tight this is, and if you do this, I will call you out on it every minute of every day. And someone or lots of someones are going to do this. This is called an orphan. You should never have a lonely word or two lonely words ever, ever, ever again in your whole entire life. And when you see it, it should make you crazy for the rest of your life. You will hear my voice going, that is never acceptable. Okay? So we have to solve that problem, but we can't change our definition every time we want to solve a problem, right? We're going to need to work with it. No pun intended. All right. So here's what we're going to do. There's a couple of options for us. First of all, you can use what's called a soft return. That's holding down your shift key and hitting a return. And by doing that, it'll push things on to the next line. So I could look at this very literally with shift soft returns and make this break down exactly how I want it to break down. So here it's a little trickier. I don't want this little part here to be on its own line. This is where you'll put your definition. Please make sure to make sure to spell check and proof your work. This actually needs another space in it, so that helps me a little bit. This is, hyphens. Yeah, let's get rid of that. That's easy. Put your definition and be sure to put shift return it in your own voice. Make sure to spell check and proof your work. That looks pretty decent. I can live with that. This is where you will put your definition. Let's try this one a little bit differently. Shift return. Shift return. Shift return. So now I'm totally micromanaging my type. That's one option. Totally fine to do. That's up to you. Now, the other thing that I want you to be aware of is, so you've got a relationship between this and the design and this and the definition. And this is where you use something called leading. And leading, L-E-A-D-I-N-G, comes from the fact that when they used to set type with metal type, right, a trend that kind of came back, they literally would put lines of lead in between type, and each line of lead would be a different width. And that's how you knew how much spacing, or that's how you placed your spacing in. So if you roll over this here, you'll see that in character, you've got something called set the leading. And I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to set my leading to what I think looks pretty decent. So let's set it at 17. Now, I want it to be the same across the board. So I could click in here, and I could highlight this, and I could type in under leading, hello? Is everything okay over there?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So I can type it in like that, right? That's one option. Now, what I like, even better than that, because I don't have to remember any numbers, is I can also just grab my eyedropper tool. If I highlight the type and I use my eyedropper tool and I hover over the line of type I want it exactly like, so do you notice when I'm hovering, it gives me a T? That tells me it's grabbing type information, and I click on it, it'll apply it. Right? So it will do all the legwork for you. All right, let's turn these back on. And the last thing is you're going to need to have some sort of a footer. And again, we're going for hierarchy here. So what we're looking for is your name. I'm a bullet fan. Option 8 is the keystroke for a bullet. So I'm going to use Liz Brownell, Fall 2018. And what class it is. So you can put Art 115 or you can put Computer Imaging, whichever you prefer. All right, this is my footer information. Of everything that I put in my footer information, I think that probably the most important thing is my name. So I'm going to actually have a little fun with this. I'm going to cut that out of there. I'm going to paste it into here. And I'm going to go ahead right here, highlight this, and here I'm going to actually use Demi to make it a little bit darker. Now, because I use 2 columns here, I'm going to think about using 2 columns here. And I'm going to keep it centered. And I'm going to pull it up to that baseline that I've got there. And I'm going to turn this off. And another favorite trick of mine is to go ahead and with nothing selected, hit your tab key. That'll toggle all your windows on and off. And I've got a pretty decent layout, right? I might want to play around a little bit. I might want to highlight this and play around with what it looks like if I make those demi. But I've got a pretty good flow going. What I want to do with my information is I want to balance it, and I also want to make it so that it's informative and not distracting. Your typography shouldn't overpower what you're trying to tell. Your typography should also aid readability, not hinder it. So for example, if I look at a typeface like this, I can also think about just grabbing these bottom lines and changing that tracking. It was at 11, so let's change it to 14. Right? And notice I didn't do the top line because I wanted to space it out, but having that little bit of extra leading can make it easier to read. And so if I like that, again, and I want to put it everywhere else and I don't remember what I did, I can just click down here and apply it to those parts below. Switch to my text tool, highlight this, come on over here to my eyedropper and stick it here. And now I've got that where I want it to be. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I should have been Command S-ing all along, but I wasn't. And then I can play around with how I want all of this to play out as well. And so maybe I'm not crazy about where it's ending up there. Maybe I would prefer to have this in the middle. You can certainly use other attributes. You can use lines, you could use dots, you could use other things to make it more your own. The idea is that I want you to really consider the white space around your designs, the choice of your typeface and how it supports what you're actually building on your page, and also the readability of it. One other trick that may be helpful, I might really like this but feel like it's a little tricky to read, and so there's also something called tracking, and that's going to increase visually the space between all of the characters in a word. So it will give a bit more space between everything. And sometimes that too can increase readability. You have moved, if not already, then from this moment forward, you have moved from a world where you set type and hit bold and non-bold, italic, to a world where you craft your images and you make something that works for you. So perhaps I want to go back into this here and go, I really loved that, but I'm going to get over myself. And I'm going to go avant-garde. Ooh. Maybe somewhere like that. Maybe a little like that. Right? And I can go very carefully through and look at what I've got there. So sometimes what we visually perceive as being successful because we love a particular typeface, I don't love the typeface I was using anyway, isn't actually the most successful thing we can have. And sometimes a headline doesn't need to be bold to be a headline. Sometimes just scale and white space make it a headline. So really considering not only the typefaces that you're choosing, but how you're executing them across your entire piece. And then I'm going to go here because that's bugging me too. And I'm going to actually go in here and triple click on it to highlight everything and make it 10 points. So it's just a little bit smaller. It's a little too bold for me. And although I have this to the edge of my guides, right, I visually would probably prefer if it aligned to the edge of this. So